listening to Thrive with Jay Grayce and the angel of the airwaves, Jay Grayce. Jay, take it away.
Thank you, Mark. Hi, everyone. It is Thursday, and it is time for us to thrive. I am your host, Jay Grayce, wishing you all the best. I hope you're enjoying your evening. We're very excited because we have with us an yoga and meditation expert and award-winning author of the international bestseller, Vibrational Upgrade, A Conspiracy for Your Bliss, Existing Humanity's Evolutionary Transition. That's a mouthful. Dr. Alison J.K., welcome to the program. How are you?
Good. Assisting humanity's evolutionary transition was how that was said.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I like the horns background. I love it. Very dramatic.
Yeah, my publisher insisted on having that tagline at the end because he knows what my work is and what my why is behind why I'm doing what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, no, you have to speak to assisting humanity's evolutionary transition. It has to be on the cover. Okay. So, okay, there you have it. I know it's a mouthful. Thank you for saying it.
But it's a great way to start the program. You said that's part of your work. It's part of your essential part of what you do. What exactly does that mean?
So we're in a 20-year window from 2012 to 2032, which is considered the leap in evolution humanity's ever made, ever. Not just modern or recent history, ever. Like, bigger than when we started walking upright, bigger than from the dinosaurs. If you want to talk in metaphysical terms or spiritual terms, what's said, and I don't normally talk in these terms, but you may have some listeners who do, what's said is we're jumping 2 dimensions. We're going from a 3D world, to a 5D world. And so 3D, I know my first book entitled What If There's Nothing Wrong? I wrote it my 10th year of living in Asia, studying subtle energies, is talking about the idea of the 3D world, the Newtonian physics-based world that we are familiar with, that gravity kind of, the law of gravity kind of runs, and therefore we can expect a concrete, sequential, linear, step-by-step way and pulsation to life. So if I'm going to take my pool stick and hit that cue ball, it's going to, and I'm directing it towards that striped ball, number 9, I'm going to be able to predict that 9 ball can go in that corner pocket. Mm-hmm. Whereas we're living in a time now as we move into 3D, out of that, and into 4D and 5D, that's based on quantum physics, and that's more about consciousness, which leaps and bounds and quirks, and you don't need just like step by step incremental change. It can be really fast, rapid change, which is what we're seeing.
Which is wonderful. So it sounds magical.
Yeah, it is. We're living in such magical times. But, Jay, the way people are covering it, you think that, like, we're living in the worst of times.
Yes.
But, a fever has to peak before it breaks. A zit has to have all of the toxicity come to the surface before you can pop it. I mean, it's just, it's the yin and the yang. It's in the Chinese language, the word for chaos contains opportunity in the characters used for chaos.
Interesting. And I believe that wholeheartedly, especially, it's funny that you said that, and you have to bring out all the toxicity before it gets cleared up. And I used that analogy yesterday with a client of mine, the same thing. I said, we have to clear it up, and it seems like everything's falling apart right now, but that's just a momentary thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And the beauty of what's falling apart is the ego-based stuff. So some of the other things that especially in this book that you just introduced, Vibrational Upgrade, A Conspiracy for Your Bliss, it just hit number 1 apparently.
Well, congratulations on that.
In the energy healing category. Yeah, woohoo to that. Thank you. It's giving an understanding, though, to what that means to be out of this old crumbling paradigm and its toxicity, because in it, the 3D to 4D jump is us having our hearts, what it shows up as, and when I'm working with a client on the table, or I'm working with a group of people through their chakra system, and through the mindfulness coaching that I do, is in the meditation instruction that I do, is the heart starts to open. So the things like the blame, the resentment, the frustration, the aggravation, that stuff disappears, and after it dissipates first, and it transforms into acceptance. And then to go from, so the heart is opening in order to take us out of the old 3D world, which is based on ego. Ego is given to us. The ego mind to structure all of the actual input and data that's coming at our senses, but we have like I used to teach AP psychology in the high school classroom, and 2 chapters in a college 101 textbook for psychology. One is on sensory data, and then the other one's on perception. So first our senses pick up the data, and then our mind rifles through files to find out what it knows about this new data coming in, so it can give it a label, so we can make sense out of what we're experiencing and what is coming at us on the physical plane. And we have thresholds on these physical senses, Jay, so that we only take in a certain level of the data, because there's so much really happening that we wouldn't be able to navigate the physical plane, that we don't see, or we don't smell, or we don't hear, or we don't taste, or we don't touch with our physical 5 senses. And now we're moving into the 5D world. So what beyond the heart opening is the second step to that is, if I'm no longer feeling aggravated, frustrated, and resentful and blaming others, I'm now, there's something new available, and I'm able to recognize I have actually created almost everything in my life based on my beliefs, and that I am able to create whatever I want. I'm actually a projector on top of a neck, and so that's the power. And so now that the book, Vibrational Upgrade, A Conspiracy for Your Bliss, is really tapping into this brand new way of living. I mean, cutting edge of consciousness, the pioneers in the front, like myself, learning what that really means to be creating our reality. We don't get to blame somebody else anymore. We realize that we're not in reaction to the economy or our marketplace, that we're actually creating our money flows, and we're commanding how much money comes to us, and we're commanding our health. And it's a very, very, very different way of living than what we're presented in all of this reality. So it is very much what's breaking down is the old to make room for the new, and included in that is what is no longer heart-based, what is of the ego mind's creation that has been from the ego. So other parts of the ego, besides giving us structure and being able to navigate the physical plane, are the personality stuff, like greed and like envy and like jealousy. And so the things based on like governmental structures or economic structures that were based on any of those elements from the ego mind are being torn down, because what resonates and what was able to be kept in place connected to the ego mind is falling apart, because we're moving into a more heart-based times.
Okay, that's hence, like the way you were describing it is basically we're making a new space, hence the upgrade, to be able to utilize all this wonderful information that's here for us to break these old belief systems of struggling and
yes,
whatever else you're going through. That's wonderful. But I would imagine, and I'm asking you as an expert, do you find that there is resistance? Because when there's change, there's a lot of fear. How do you handle that?
I consistently work with opening people's hearts, and I work through the chakra system. And so what that means with just intellectual coaching. So the people who are listening right now and who are listening to the archives, and yourself too, Jay, you're getting a vibrational upgrade just through my energy alone. It's clearing you. There's a thing called entrainment. So
well, thank
the
you.
higher vibration trains up. Yeah, it's good stuff. Thanks for saying thanks, but it is. It's good stuff. That's what you get for what good you're putting out there. You know, I mean, this is great that you have this show and that not everybody finds me, whether they're a client or they're an interviewer. So it says a lot about you, too. So when I can get working with a group in the actual energy medicine, it looks a little bit different than the coaching. But while I'm doing the talking and coaching, there's still an entrainment that's happening that's giving you a vibrational upgrade. So in the resistance, there is fear, as you said, and that's the ego attaching to what's familiar. And the reality is that, I mean, even the Native Americans had an animal to describe this process that's called, it's the coyote, and it's because it's a dog chasing its tail. So when we're in resistance, it keeps us looping around and around in the same old pattern that doesn't get us anywhere new and doesn't get us to what we really want. So it's such a reflex when our soul that's in our body, that's seeing the expansion, like a tree expands, a child grows up, a flower grows, a plant grows, all of life expands as our soul resonates with, because our soul is connected to all of life and it's in our body. So as our soul sees this new venture, it's expansion. And when our mind in fear snaps back and makes that list of, I can't because I don't have enough money, I don't have enough time, I'll lose those people, I'll lose this comfort zone. As it's a reflex, just understanding that it's a natural reflex for the ego mind to go into fear when posed with expansion. So natural that the Native Americans actually attributed an animal to it in their animal medicine work. And it's like a doctor hitting a knee with an instrument to get the leg to kick out. It's that reflexive. So resistance is an innate part of change, and knowing that it's just based on your ego mind's preference for the comfort zone. But if you then start to talk back to your fears and your resistance in the way of excuses, or in what seems, and I don't mean to use the word excuses, because you could, for example, point to your schedule and say, there is no time in that day.
Right.
When you're saying, I don't have the time to do this new thing. But realistically, your mind will stay locked in that belief that I don't have the time, without the openness to what else is possible, and turning the page to the next day and saying, but I could do it here. So the resistance creates a certain kind of mental structure where the mind isn't looking for possibilities for it to be created, this new expansion, this new venture. Instead, the mind will stay locked in saying it's impossible. So the more you listen to your mind, the more you're going to be staying in that dog chasing its tail pattern. So the best thing to do is get outside, look at nature, look at animals, go volunteer to help others, write in your gratitude journal. All of those are heart-opening activities that you can do to take you out of your mind. Because in my work, I say I work in the heart chakra in order to, as a backdoor approach to quieting the mind. Beyond meditation instruction, I'll work on somebody's heart as a backdoor approach to quieting the mind.
Fantastic.
Open your heart.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I actually have on our website a question for you, if you don't mind answering it.
Sure.
Mark, can you read the question?
Absolutely, Jay. From guest 124, what exactly is a 5D world?
That's a good question.
So we don't know yet, but that's a great question. From what I know, from what I know, and I put this forth in my book, Vibrational Upgrade, A Conspiracy for Your Bliss, it's seeming the peek-throughs that I've been able to get. And I went to Glastonbury in England this past spring to really work with the energies that are coming in to get a better sense of what this 5D world means. And it seems like it's really going to be tapping into, and really is tapping into, our magic and into our creative abilities. When I say magic, in that it's not, like you said, Jay, meant to be a struggle. It's not meant to be hard. That we are creating everything anyway. We're creating where we drive to. We're creating what we drive by our choices, and our choices stacked up are creating our lives. So we can just choose differently. But part of the inherent magic to what the times are that we're living in now is consciousness has popped open so that we have more ability to garner more consciousness or energy towards our goals. So whereas if it were 15 years ago and we're sitting in our heart with our desires and emanating that out and asking, okay, who else can come in to help me build this new venture? now when we ask that with enthusiasm, we're able to bring in like 5 people, whereas 10 or 15 years ago, it might have only been 1 or 2, because the nature of the vibrations we're living immersed in right now are all about expansion into honoring the heart, and that includes your bliss and your joy. And in fact, if you don't choose based on your joy and your bliss, you're going to end up hurting your body, hurting your mind, and not in a healthy, vibrant state. So there's a lot more energy and consciousness that's active that we have access to in this 5D world. And it seems like there's a lot more, the veil is lifted a lot more. So you could go out in nature, and if you have any kind of connection to like elementals or fairies, or like the dragonflies are thought to be like little fairies or gnomes, you know, and like if you start to connect with the little plants and like, I mean, like the little flowers that you don't notice as much, but that you can pick with like your thumb and your forefinger. And you exist with nature at that elemental level and start talking to the earth. There's a lot that's coming through right now to bring us into this new time. And this new time is going to be where there's collaboration and cooperation instead of competition and jealousy. Because again, those are ego-based. The idea of lack, and that there isn't enough, and that I have to fight for what I want, and that we need to compete, and we're in the same field, so we're in competition. All of that is leaving, because another aspect of the world we're moving into and creating now is abundance, because we're mirroring consciousness, and all of life is abundant. You know, we have to deal with flooding. We have to deal with snow. We have to deal with overgrowth of weeds. We have to deal with overgrowth of grass. All of that is abundance. And all of our money, whether it's gold or it's paper, is still made from materials from the earth.
Right.
The nature of life is abundant. Yeah. So we're mirroring more and more, increasingly, ourselves and our lives and the lives we build, the natural flows of energy and the natural universal laws of energy on this planet and in this universe.
Well, I like that.
Less of the ego mind.
Because, as you know, while you were saying this and explaining it to us, I was just thinking, well, of course it makes sense. These things like that are ego-based that you mentioned don't no longer serve us. I mean, we're sort of waking up and realize, why am I struggling so much? I'm tired. I don't want to live like this anymore. And what you're saying is that we don't have to. You don't have to live that way anymore.
In that, Jay, there's also a reason why you're saying that and why you're feeling that and why the U.S. election went the way it did. Because people are recognized, and this is why, in part, I said that my publisher made sure that I had that tagline added in, easing humanity's evolutionary transition, because there's not a lot of us giving perspective to what's actually happening. That's why people are clamoring and screaming. Now, you could say it's happened in other elections. Every election, people want change. That's the nature of what happens in elections.
Right.
But if you look at the particular dynamics of this election, there was a lot more frustration expressed. There was a lot more division with people who are ready for the new and people who are saying, no, this way that we've done it, it's working. And I'm not talking about, it sounds like I'm talking about particular candidates, and I'm not even meaning to.
Right.
The clamoring and the intensity of the clamoring for change on both sides is because people underneath it all are feeling that we are in a time of change, but they just don't know how to constructively express it.
Right.
So they're just reactively expressing it.
I wholeheartedly agree with you, and I'm glad that we're doing this show because it's so important. I think, Mark, we have another question.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Okay, hold on for a second.
And the next question is from Janice. And Janice would like to know what the best way is to help prepare a loved one that may not be as open as one would like for the next evolutionary stage.
That's a great question, Janice.
Oh, that's such a great question. Yeah. I was just talking about this with my last client today, and I talk about this all the time. So my sense, Janice, is you're talking about a partner that you're linked with, cohabitating with. And I know that what you've already heard me say here is the heart. I know that so many of my clients ask the same question, and the response is, let's open up your ability to not feel as with their resistance and their inability to or see from the work from not because it's,
I'm sorry to stop you for a second. For some reason, we're not able to hear you completely, and I want Janice to hear your. Can you move your phone, or is your phone too far away or something? Because it sounds muffled.
No, I'm on a
speak. Okay,
I'm on a headset. Nothing's changed. Is that better?
Much better. Yeah.
Is that any better?
Yes, it is. Okay, so go ahead, because I wanted Janice to hear you.
Yeah, it's a really, it's a key question right now. It seems like there's two different tribes right now. There's those of us who get what we're talking about, and there's those of us who we know would never listen to this radio show, and if they did, they'd make fun of it, right? That's what it feels like is the reality we're living in now. Yeah. So what I've been seeing is there's been waves of people waking up in this greatest evolutionary leap. It's humanity's spiritual awakening. It's been happening in waves. And I've seen like the most recent wave of men, actually, specifically to men, awaken. And it's been beautiful. But not everybody... There's something that one of my colleagues says, who started his own school of energy medicine, and without saying his name, he has something that's going to sound quite drastic, but he says change or die is the nature of the time we're in right now. And it's not meant to be as dramatic as your mind might be making it to be. It's just simply kind of become constructive, or you end up destructive. Honor your push for expansion, your desire for expansion in the ways that make your heart sing, or don't. And if you don't, then you're going to end up with more destructive flows of energy than the constructive flows of energy. Because again, all of life's meant to expand, and we're no different. We have the soul that's connected to all of life in our body, even our physical body, right? So when I work with people with physical stuff, we're activating their high frequency to emanate out through their physical body, which helps shift a lot of the physical circumstances they might find their body in. So understanding that some people aren't ready yet, some people are not ever going to be ready right now on planet Earth and in the body they're in, and then being able to engage your heart to let go of the frustration and the resentment that they're not that, and have it open up more to compassion and understanding. And then you make a choice to draw boundaries. Mm-hmm. So you're no longer giving energy, because what I'm starting to really talk a lot about now that people are pulling on to me is it's almost a form of enabling. When we stay with somebody and we overgive and we overlove and we don't have appropriate boundaries because we're a kind, compassionate, understanding, giving, loving, even a healing person, then we're going to tend to overgive. And then that enables them to not step up for themselves and their own path and their own life's process of their own expansion. Mm-hmm. So it becomes like almost like an addict and an enabler. So one of the strongest things that you can do, Janice, is pull yourself back and just pray for them and wish them well. But I mean, when I teach my energy medicine levels to my students, I say we're not allowed to just go in and send an energy medicine session to someone because we love them and want them to have an easier time changing because we see their resistance, because that's overstepping our boundaries and their own boundaries, because we could adversely affect their growth. All we can pray for them, we can have compassion for them, and we can draw our own boundaries and continue to choose what makes our heart joyous. And they might, without any words exchanged, it's usually the way it goes, as you change your vibration and you continue to follow and create more of in your body, in your vibration, in your life, what makes you happy, they're going to look at you and they're going to say, I want more of that. And they're going to start to do one or two of the things that you do, eat one or two of the things that you eat, but they might not do it in front of you. It might be that kind of dynamic. They might not let you know that you're quote unquote winning, right? So you can kind of keep your eyes open for that. it's a really sweet process, but it's not done in the American way. And I don't mean to insult America, but we're very direct in this country. Living in Asia, I learned how direct we are. And even within our own country, the Northeast versus the South, we're very direct in certain parts of our country.
Yes.
And so looking to directly address their resistance is not the way to do it anymore, because it's just going to engage their resistance. I mean, it's an automatic door opening to their resistance when we go at that resistance verbally. So if you just model it by being happy yourself, it's more the nature of the times we're living in now for someone to look at someone else over there on their website and say, I like what they got going on. I want to get me some of that. Click buy now. Right. It's the same thing with your loved ones. Just model it for them, but you're not saying, I'm going to get happy, so he'll see how happy I am, so blah, blah, blah. Instead, you're doing it because you really want to genuinely feel good and happy, and that will help them in and of itself because it'll raise their vibration too. They might go into more resistance before the vibration raises, though, but it'll help them get there.
That's a wonderful answer. And for Janice, I think you sort of asked a question that I think, like you said, Alison, it happens a lot. If we're people who are empathic and compassionate, we tend to just want to help too much. And sometimes by wanting to help them, you might cross boundaries, and it's not healthy for either party. So I'm glad that you asked that question. Do we have any other question?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Last question from guest 232. What do you think is the best way to increase a person's vibrations?
Another great question.
So I don't mean to market myself, but I'm gonna, because I know this is the most effective way. My meditation product on my website. Meditation's the answer, but then where people go in their minds with meditation is, I've tried that before. My mind doesn't get quiet. So on my meditation product, it's only $25. And so on my homepage, actually, so it's Alison with 1LJK.com. So ALISONJKAY. On my homepage, there's an interview I did with NBC the day after the last presidential debate, and it's about meditation. And I'm debunking the myth of what we expect with meditation when we approach it, typically in America, because I've taught meditation to all ages all around the world for the last 25 years. And it's particularly unique to us. We expect our mind to get silent. We accomplish the task. Meditation means I'm going to quiet my mind. I sit down for 30 minutes, my mind got louder, I failed, I'm not doing it again.
Yes.
It's the short of it.
You're talking about me right now.
Not what meditation is. Yeah, I'm saying it for a reason, because I see it so frequently, but that's not what meditation is. Meditation is when you're sitting down to meditate, that's the workout. Like you're at the gym building your muscles, and then you go home later, or you go to the store and you try on that outfit and you look hot in the outfit. So it's the same thing. It's like meditation's the workout with your mind getting louder because you're learning to detach from it, and it gets kind of self-conscious because it's being observed. And so then when you walk away from the meditation cushion or that corner of the room where you meditate, later on in the day when he bugs you, you don't get triggered and react. Instead, you're like, you have distance from it, and you're like, oh, okay. And there's more mindfulness there, and there's more energy and consciousness and awareness there, so there's no conflict. So the payoff with the meditation is off the mat. So the number one way to raise your vibration is look at your thoughts, don't come from your thoughts, and understand that you can develop increasingly distance from what your mind says, and don't believe your mind, because so many of your thoughts. I found this out especially when I moved to Asia and lived there for 10 years, and I wrote about this a lot, rather extensively in my first book, What If There's Nothing Wrong? So much of what we each think is based on where we grow up. So your mind will think exactly and I mean this, your mind will think exactly the opposite if you grew up on the other side of the planet. So here we believe self-expression is good. There, I found out that I hold back my self-expression and I fit in with the group so everybody feels comfortable. So don't believe your mind. Every thought is a conditioned thought. So what I find is the intuition pokes in increasingly the more we quiet our mind, the more space we get created from that reactive, compulsive thinking mind that our society and our globalized modern day lifestyle creates. So the first part is to peel back the attachment and the listening to the thinking mind, and create space for new stuff to come in, which then is like intuitive guidance. You can hear your heart's expression more of its enthusiasm. Go do that. You do that, and now you're starting to raise your vibration.
Wonderful. I can't believe the half hour is gone. And there's so many other questions, and we could talk for another hour. But Dr. Alison, I just want people to know where they can get in touch with you, where they can get your books. Please let them know.
Thank you. Okay, so it's on Amazon. Vibrational Upgraded Conspiracy for Your Bliss. It's on Amazon, and then my website is Alison with one L. The letter J is in Jumping Jacks, and then KAY.com. And if you go to the Work With Me page, you can book a complimentary 30-minute session so we can see which program is for you that I offer. Then there's the products. You can get passive products. The number one way to change your vibration the quickest is to buy the Chakra Attunement audio series. That has changed people's lives permanently, and it's absolutely beautiful how much density it clears out of the entire system of a human being. So if you want to, I have a free monthly call every Thursday. I actually have it coming up in an hour with my group, my community. So if you want, when you go to the homepage and you look to the top, there's a box you can enter your information so you can join the newsletter, so you can have the free call where I do clearings and activations every month. And then there's also an actual free product there for 25 minutes. You get clearings of the most frequent blocks people have towards success. That's a free MP3 you're going to get instantly once you give your name to get the newsletter about all the stuff that you can listen to and receive more clearings and activations step by step as you're ready.
That's wonderful. Thank you for doing that. And again, I would love to have you back in the future. I'm very interested in your other book. What There's Nothing Wrong. I mean, that's. I'm sure we could talk about that alone. Because a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
Yeah, because I believe firmly that a lot of people who have illnesses and have a lot more power to heal, and I would love to talk about that and more in depth with you, and sort of pick your wonderful brain and share what you have to with our listeners.
Thanks, Jay. Well, go ahead and get in touch with my publicist, and then we can do it.
Absolutely. I certainly will. Thank you so much, Dr. Alison, JK, for spending this half hour with us. And may we
It's my honor, JG.
And may we all thrive in loving ways. Good night.
Good night.